Knicks need a point guard and fast. More from Mike Vaccaro. The Knicks are impossible to figure out right now. Cowboys shriveling again shows why they are perpetually next year's team. Ranking New York sports best current GM coach duos. Vax mail sack. Giants searches, Jets hope, Knicks moves, Yankees and Mets need. Knicks RJ Barrett has figured it out, and the Garden noted. You can understand how Walt Frazier feels. You could certainly empathize with Clyde during the dying minutes of Tuesday's especially egregious game at Madison Square Garden. The Timberwolves eking out a 112-110 win over the Knicks because, let's speak plainly here, the Knicks played the last 3 minutes of the game as if they were 5 cricket players being introduced to basketball. For the very first time, Clyde is a gentleman. And so it isn't so much what he said on MSG's telecast as how he reacted to watching the Knicks look wholly incapable of functioning. As an offense on possession after possession after possession down the stretch. The pain in his voice was obvious. And you can understand, right? Think about asking Beyonce to sit through a recital where 5 amateurs try to outdo themselves singing horrifyingly off-key versions of Single Ladies. Think about asking Daniel Day-Lewis to sit through a series of screen tests from guys pulled off the street to do the Always Be closing scene. From Glengarry Glen Ross. That's where the Knicks are right now at point guard. The Knicks are all over the place, Clyde said at one point late in the game. And the angst in his voice was such that you hoped Mike Breen gave him a consoling hug at game's end. But then, Clyde has only 2 of the millions of eyes that see the same thing every game. We can talk about all the things that Leon Rose needs to do to drag the Knicks up the ladder in the Eastern Conference. We can no longer ignore the bright pink elephant in the room. The Knicks got a first-hand look at point guard target Jalen Brunson this week. NBAE via Getty Images point guard is a problem. Point guard is a mess. The also Knicks lose crusher in Kemba Walker's return to fall below .500 point guard needs to be addressed. Point guard needs to be fixed. Kemba Walker played fine Tuesday in his return, but at this stage in his career he is nowhere close to a classic point guard. Derrick Rose's absence has been a major setback for the Knicks, but even at full health Rose's greatest value at age 33 is as a backup, where he can contribute 1 shift per half on his knees. Maybe Deuce McBride can be a rotational point guard someday. He is a work in progress right now. Leon Rose needs to target one of the point guards who are likely to be available either in the offseason or as the trade deadline approaches. The most obvious choice is Jalen Brunson, whom they saw up close last week when the Mavericks visited the Garden, who has taken a nice leap this year and is putting himself in position for a tidy payday next summer. Brunson isn't Chris Paul, but he established at Villanova that he has winning basketball DNA. Bona fides that have translated to the NBA quite nicely. Kemba Walker is not a classic point guard at this point of his career, the Post's Mike Vaccaro writes. New York Post, Charles Wenzelberg Brunson's father, Rick, is an ex-Knick and worked for Tom Thibodeau in both Chicago and Minnesota, so there would be an instant familiarity there if the Mavs are willing to move him before the February 10th trade deadline. It also gives Brunson and the Knicks 2 months to see what might be playing alongside RJ Barrett, Cam Reddish and Julius Randle before committing the upwards of $80 million Brunson would likely command. The Knicks also can target Indiana's Malcolm Brogdon, still on the first year of a 4-year, $85 million contract. Though that couldn't happen until the summer and the return for him likely would be much steeper than Brunson. That part is on Leon Rose's shoulders now. He made the decision to pick Obi Toppin over both Cole Anthony and Tyrese Hailburton. And while Toppin is a Garden favorite right now, that choice already seems dubious, especially because Thibodeau is clearly not in love with Obi. He chose not to make a play for Russell Westbrook, Fred VanVleet, and Lonzo Ball. He has bided his time. It is time to strike. It has become wearying watching Alec Burks play out of position and burdensome to watch the Knicks in crunch time without a compass, waiting around for Randle or Barrett to make a play. New York, for generations the cradle of point guards, craves one in the worst way. And you don't have to be one of the best who ever was, like Clyde, to recognize that.